Welcome to a sleepy Norfolk. It's that big lumpy thing on England's east. It's got things like lavender, crab and Lotus. And we've come to have a look at its latest motor, the fastest Lotus ever made, the Evora 410. The Evora 400 was a truly brilliant car. Mid-engined, 400 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, looks to kill, sharp handling. It was brilliant, but Lotus being Lotus has found a little bit more room to breathe in there. So it's made it more powerful, livelier, and a little angrier. There's way more going on here than a simple turning up of the wick and giving it a new name. Lotus has trimmed 70 kilos off the 400, 80 if you spec the Rorty titanium exhaust. How has it done that? Well, breathe in. A carbon fibre tailgate sheds 12 kilos, a carbon fibre roof 2. Carbon fibre front access panels, spoiler and grills, that's 2.5 kilos. Forged wheels save 10. Single piece door panels drop 2. Carbon fibre sports seats get 18 kilos back. A lithium ion battery sheds 11.3. 5.5 kilos of sound deadening is gone. There's a low density foam core screen surround that saves 3.4 kilos. The rear bulkhead glass has dropped 1. An HVAC inlet thing loses 900 grams. Carbon fibre rear quarter glass saves 800 grams. And the mud flaps drop 700 grams more. That's quite a lot gone then, but if you decide you want the jazzy new look and the extra power but also want some creature comforts, you can spec that back in for a cost, of course. You can get aircon and sound deadening and a stereo and stuff like that if you really want it, but that would rather be spoiling the point of the car. How would you be doing that? Well, it's quite simple. The weight reduction as well as lowering the car means its centre of gravity is much lower than before, which means better handling, which means better car. And you wouldn't want to make the better car worse now, would you? Now, its new look, it isn't just purely for cosmetics, it's actually functional. The spoilers and splitters on the front and back do make a noticeable effect to downforce and drag. So this thing actually produces twice the downforce the 400 does at its top speed, more than twice at 100 miles an hour. Its engine has been fiddled with, obviously, to give 410 horses and around 310 pound-foot. With the lightweight fun times included, the 410 will hit 62 in 4.1 seconds, and it'll do 190 miles an hour. The 410 is 3 seconds quicker around Lotus's Norfolk test track than the Evora 400. It's 1 second quicker than the Exige 350. Lotus says it's the fastest production car it's ever made. Of course, being Lotus, it's also fiddled with the suspension, so it's got firmer dampers that work better with the light wheels at each corner. The springs are the same as the 400, but thanks to lower weight, Lotus says the effective spring rates have improved. Oh, and there's Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tyres on each corner. They're the grade A good stuff. A while ago I was in the US driving a US spec Evora 400, and while it's not exactly the same, it's a little bit heavier. Still, it's good enough for a quick comparo. Admittedly, the weather out there was dry, and here it's revolting. I mean, the 400 was brilliant. Just a truly wonderful, epic car. But this just feels that little bit better, that little bit more hardcore. So let's go with the bad things first. You cannot see out of the rear. Those slats, they're nothing. You get 4, if you're short, little letterboxes to see through, and you can't see much through them. Not great. This car does have air conditioning in it, and it's pretty rubbish. It hasn't made me cold at all, so I've been sweating in this thing quite a bit. Oh, and you have to lift up the tailgate on your own, because to save weight they got rid of the gas strut, so you have a stick, old school style. But hey, if it works for them, if it takes the kilos off, that's fine, because in freeing up those 70-80 kilos, what Lotus has done is they've made the 410 just feel lighter and more nimble. It feels more alive, even more tactile. The 400 is one of the sweetest handling cars I've had the privilege of driving, and this is just that extra step. It's so communicative. The steering, it's not too heavy, it's not too light, but you can feel everything on the road. Every bump and lump on this track, you can feel it under the front. When you're on the limit, when you're sliding around like an idiot, it's so easy to control. It's such a good chassis. The yaw rate, just bang on. It feels amazing. The throttle response is instant, and when you're properly on it, you get that supercharger noise just creeping in. That 3.5 litre V6, Americans may scoff because it came from a Camry, but my God, I've not heard a Camry that sounds like that. It sounds fantastic. The brake pedal's quite hard, quite shallow, but again, it's easy to modulate. There's not too much to play with, but you can do stuff with it. Its clutch is light. It's very easy. The gearbox as well, it's a firm box, but it's not too difficult to use. It's smooth, it's slick. It's an absolute joy. Man, this thing, you can feel it through your fingertips, you can feel it through your arse. The car moves with you. It communicates everything it's doing. You have to be precise with it. If you've got everything turned off, you can make a proper arse of yourself, but it does have 4-stage traction, so there's everything on and everything's fine. Well, it's quite placid and quite lovely. Sport sharpens it up a little bit. Race, which is what we're in now, well, it makes it louder, it makes it angry and gives you a little bit of slip. But it makes sliding so easy, you can drift it with one hand. And then you can turn everything off, and then, oh my, she becomes a beastie. Really does. It's such an enjoyable car to drive, and it's so rare that there's something out there that feels so natural. You know, we live in a time where everything is electrically assisted, and there's fake noise pumped in, and this isn't real, and you have to have the automatic gearbox because it's faster and it's better for emissions and Mother Nature and all that. Whereas this car is sort of the anti-that. It's properly set up. Lotus's handling guys remain some of the best in the biz. It sounds amazing. All of the controls just feel right. It's the right car to play with. Yeah, so the instrument binnacle doesn't have the latest LCD, LED, HDR, 4K displays, and well, I don't have a stereo in here, instead I've got a metal plate. But this is supposed to be a lightweight, limited run sports car. They're only going to build 150 a year globally. Oh man, it's so good. I've found my happy place, and my happy place is the Hethel circuit, this, and a full tank of fuel. Now, I've just been playing on a track, but Lotus says this will do well on the road as well. That'll probably be if you spec the sound deadening, air conditioning and a stereo, but without, you'll have to be something of a masochist. But for real-world usability, it's easy to get in and out of, you can see out of the front, and it's quite comfy. And it'll certainly stand out. Not a lot of people go for the Lotus, and I think that is a crying shame. I think they're missing out. Admittedly, I say that with a 10-year-old Elise on the drive. I am a Lotus person, but my point still stands. There's a purity to a Lotus. It's very analogue in a world where cars are becoming less and less so, more digital. And you know what? That's a great shame. Admittedly, there are still a few analogue car companies out there. Caterham, Xenos, Ariel, but none of those have roofs, and they're their own kind of stupid. Okay, so it does feel handmade in places. Take from that what you will, and it is very expensive. £82,000 in the UK, $108,500 in the US. That's Porsche money, isn't it? However, as I said years ago when I first drove the Evora S and had hair, try one before you go to Stuttgart. It's a very raw car. You feel the weight that's been lost. You don't necessarily feel the extra power, but you get that extra finesse. That Lotus handling is still there, and it feels utterly, utterly fantastic. Lotus says this is the fastest car it's ever made. And you know what? I think it's one of the best. Hello, did you enjoy that video? I sincerely hope you did. And do you fancy a little bit more Carfection in your life today? Because if you want to see our next video before it goes live here on YouTube, you can click right here to go to carfection.com, where it's waiting for you right now. As usual, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video, and if you haven't already, to subscribe to the channel, which you can do by clicking here.